again, I still have not made an intro for an artist's guide to Wildemount. I think that's how you say it, right? Wildemount.
That's my guess. Yeah, I mean,
I
know how it's pronounced, but I think it's pronounced Wildemount.
It's Wildemount.
Yeah, it's actually it's the first One Piece crossover. It's Wildemount.
No, it's actually a domain. It's will.de.mount.
If that wasn't clear enough, better just put us out of the way. We addressed this in the Echo Knight video, but you might not have seen one. At least 2 of the people talking in this video haven't experienced much of Matmos's famous, I guess it's his magnum opus by now, Critical Role.
I am one of those people.
Yeah, one of them's who's that guy.
Hello.
Hey, and one of them's me, who's Theo.
And I'm Neil, whose main defining characteristic is apparently I've seen Critical Role.
In this circumstance, yes. You know the secrets.
My other characteristic is I have a bird who is still awake because we're recording a bit early. So I'm going to try my best to keep him quiet and edit out the chirps, but there may be a couple here and there.
There might be a few. There might be a few tweets. Speaking of tweets, follow us on Twitter.
Oh my god, that's the first time we've ever said
Oh
that.
my lord.
I keep meaning to say it as the social media manager, but I've never done it.
We're putting the plugs right at the beginning. No, recently we've been drawing, or I've been drawing. Hello, I went to university to do illustration for 3 years, so I'm qualified. That's also the first brag about my qualification, I think. Anyway,
You're so humble.
I know.
Well, I went to the School of Hard Knocks, right? Which
Yeah, I graduated from the University of Life, so...
Anyway. I've been drawing, well, we've been talking about some subclasses. It all started when there was a load of new unearthed Arcana subclasses, and we were really excited and getting into that. And now there's a new book, and there's some cool new subclasses in it. We did the Echo Knight, as I say, earlier in the week. And today we're going to be talking about the wizard. There's 2 wizards. We're going to be talking about the first one, the Chronurgy wizard, I believe. Is it? Am I saying that right?
The Chronurgy magic.
I'm going to call it the Time Wizard, Yug. That's what I'm going to
It
call
all
it.
really came out.
Exactly what it is.
There
he is! There he is!
There
he is!
Oh, God.
Flip a coin, baby!
The time was... Quick aside, Yu-Gi-Oh's like fearless approach to character design is something we should all aspire to. Just do anything. Imagine playing this guy. What race is it? Warforged.
He looks like the sentient stopwatch from Diddy Kong Racing.
But you know, well, he's gone now.
It's a reference for the Diddy Kong Racing fans out there.
Well, I was making a Yu-Gi-Oh reference, so I'm also equally sinful. Anyway, back to D&D. I think I'm going to talk about one thing just briefly, which is to do with character design and wizards in general, which is that there's a lot of wizard subclasses in like the base book. There's one for each of the schools of magic, so it was that 9 of them. I think that's probably about right, something like that.
Sure.
There's a lot of them, and making a wizard like very visually distinct to another kind of wizard can be difficult, because wizards, you know, they have a lot of tropes to them already. So if you want to draw someone who's clearly a wizard, with like the evocation school, like, oh, you could have like some fire motifs and like and, you know, stuff like that, and obviously like, you know, the ones who, you know, make stuff. Sure. With a time wizard, I didn't want to just draw a man with like a load of clocks on him, or like, you know, sitting on a sundial. So
Hourglass pauldrons.
Does have an hourglass. Hourglass pauldrons would be very funny. I thought, who would want to be a time wizard? And something that I've always really liked the idea of is, because a wizard is a class who like gets their power from like learning stuff, and that presumably takes time.
Yes.
So an obvious choice of a race for a wizard is something that's long lived, right?
Yeah.
So maybe a time wizard, or someone who's trying to, you know, become a lich or something like that, could be one of the shorter lived races, and they're trying to extend their time around.
Their fleeting time on the planet. Yeah.
So I've drawn probably an orc, I think is what I'm calling it. Again, the way I draw orcs is not like the D&D orc way. I give them like Darth Maul horns and like lanky limbs and stuff. Go watch the Challenge Raiders episode about orcs to see more of my opinions about orc design. But that's what I'm drawing. So this guy is presumably, trying to get some extra time on this world, and maybe you could even have that as like a thing for like a lich, because like obviously all the base wizard classes are to do with the School of Magic. So if you wanted to have a character whose goal was to become a lich, and there is the item in the DMG which is the book on how to become a lich. Obviously, like necromancy would make sense, but this is like kind of another way you could approach it, because it doesn't have a school tied to it. You could be the time wizard who also takes a bunch of necromancy spells.
Infinite time.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I'm doing and my approach to this essentially. I spent a long time as well trying to figure out what to make his spell book, because I'm a big fan of having spell books be something like unique and interesting, but I really couldn't think of. I thought like a calendar, but like that's not really. That's really like I just gave him a book, which I think was fine.
Yeah. I mean, you need books if you're a wizard.
You need your book. Okay, so time wizard. So again, we're not going to talk about like the specifics of the class, because this is a class that comes in a book that you should be buying if you want it. There'll be a link in the description to the D&D Beyond, where you can buy just the subclasses. It's all about dunamis.
Dunamancy.
A unique magic thing to the setting.
Sounds very cat.
Like,
Deuteronomy.
The Jellicle wizard.
The Jellicle wizard. Sorry, anyway, continue. Yes, the actual class.
Can I have you a Cats reference in this trying time? So that, as far as I'm aware, Neil, is Dunamancy like specifically like to do with time and stuff, or was it like time, space, and like the fabric?
Yeah, all of these three classes are to do with Dunamancy.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of the harnessing of this kind of new magic that the characters have kind of discovered. I'm not completely up to date, but from what I remember, it's basically tied to these very ancient objects that kind of manipulate time, space, also kind of the soul.
Right. Okay.
Like
So the Echo Knight. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very all-encompassing thing.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, but specifically the Chronurgy magic uses it to affect time. And I think this class, spoilers, I think this class is really, really cool. And very, like, well put together for its theme. But the first thing you can do, you're level 2, because, wizards get them at level 2, their expertise, or whatever you call it, their subclass. Yeah, so you can use your reaction to basically make someone re-roll a d20. What's interesting about this is that it has the line where you make the decision to re-roll it after you see if it succeeds or fails. Usually it's the other way around for most of the things that you re-roll. Usually in those circumstances, you're like meant to be intercepting it while it's happening, not after it's happened. Whereas this is you're sort of rewinding time and playing it again. Whatever happens, happens. So you have to take the second roll. So obviously, if you're like making an enemy re-roll an attack, there's a chance they might re-roll and crit, which obviously is a low chance, but it could happen, and then it'd be very irritating. But it would be quite funny as well.
This ability is almost explicitly kind of what you wanted from the Echo Knight.
Yeah, actually, looking through it, there's a lot of crossover with that. So again, this is probably why I think it's a very, very cool little guy. But yeah, for example, like if someone does get crit, by an enemy, then it would always be better to re-roll that, because even if they do still hit, getting crit is very bad.
Yeah.
And you can also use it, to help if there's an attack that everyone's like banking a massive plan on hitting, then this is obviously a chance to get that again, and it's beyond advantage. And I guess if someone's hitting with advantage, you would re-roll it twice, presumably, right? I would. I don't know how that would go.
I would say yeah, because you roll. Because normally how I roll with advantage, at least when we were playing in real life and on Roll20, where we normally play, you roll 2 dice to start with.
Yeah, because it says you re-roll the attack, and if the attack's with advantage, you roll with 2 dice. Or whatever. So that could be really good. And I don't know how the statistics work out, but the chances of hitting when you're basically rolling 4 d20s
probably quite high.
It's probably pretty high. You can do that twice, and then you regain it on a long rest. So it's not like
it's not tied to an ability score or anything.
It's not tied to an ability score, which I might have expected.
That tends to be the case a lot with that kind of stuff. But I guess it's good that it isn't, because you just know you're getting a set amount. So
yeah. Because if it was tied, then you could have like 5 of them, and this is like this is a very strong ability. You know, this is like sort of comparable to the like lucky feat and stuff like that. Probably more useful. But again, it's very cool.
I think,
and again, really strong theming as well. Especially if you describe it, you know, as like something like the orc is like his sword stuck in someone, and then like whoop, and it comes out, and like everything, reversing time in that moment and playing again could be very fun.
Yeah, I want to compare it to something in its own class.
Okay, sure.
Because there's a divination wizard.
Right. Okay. This is another thing as well. It's like I like a lot of the wizards, but I do not remember all of the subclass details that well because there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's in the divination wizard?
Well, you roll 2d20s at the start of a day. When you finish a long rest, you roll 2d20s.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can replace an attack roll saving throw ability check with one of those dice.
Yeah.
And you do that before the roll, and you replace the roll, and you do that once per turn.
So this is kind of not even as strong as that in a lot of ways, because this is up to chance as opposed to you with a divination, you're able to use it tactically with certainty, especially.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, you're not. Okay.
The flavour-wise of both of them, you can really clearly see. Like, Portent, you pick before you roll anything, so it's like, oh, this is what I had foreseen, almost.
This is fate.
Exactly.
Such was your fate.
Whereas this one is like going back a little bit in time or changing timelines or something. So there's still a lot of randomness maybe to that, because it's not like you've foreseen the event, you're just trying to change it.
Something that I'll bring up now, and then like I'll explain it as it becomes more clear, is this wizard, I think, levels up in a very like cool storytelling way, because this level 1, and that's a weird sentence, but like the level 1 thing is like you're just retrying. In a way, you can almost imagine that you're like, because this is meant to be a new magic thing within its own setting. You're kind of discovering it as you go.
Yeah, you're grasping at it.
And like there's a thing later on where like you're having a lot more control over like the outcomes of stuff, but like starting off with it just being essentially, you know, a retry, you can imagine it being like the first time this power, like you've understood it, and this is as much as you can do for now, and then you know, as your class increases,
very raw, not rules as written, but actually raw power.
Yeah. The other thing you get level 2 is you get intelligence modifier on top of initiative. It's a simple thing, but it's really fitting.
Nice.
And it's cool. I think probably wizards tend to have higher dex than some classes. Like it's a stat you're going to want for AC, I guess, as a wizard. It's not going to be a highest, but with intelligence and dexterity, that means you're going to be, you know, having a pretty decent bonus.
Yeah.
And obviously, going early in a fight is good, because you don't want to, you know, be stuck out last after the enemies are acting as the wizard with a low health.
And the idea that you maybe move a little bit faster in combat because of maybe you saw the event happening and you...
Yeah. It's called temporal awareness, so that really suits it very well. 6th level thing... Oh yeah, this thing's quite cool. Momentary stasis. It kind of reminds me of that spell that I can't remember the name of, which is like a... No, do you know the one I mean? The one where you make like an orb that like is indestructible orb?
Otterluke's Resilient Sphere.
Yeah. So basically, a creature makes a con save, and if they fail it, or I guess if they choose to fail it, if it's an ally, they're stuck in a magic field where they can't do anything. They're incapacitated in this field. So basically, pause time for them. And, you know, if they get hit or take damage at all, then I think it ends. I'm pretty sure that's that's the long and short of it. Yeah, and this is tied to your intelligence modifier, so you can use it up to, I guess, if you've got 20 intelligence 5 times.
Such a cool support spell for like freezing enemies in combat, controlling things. They're incapacitated, so you crit them. With other people hit them. It's just you can imagine it's the guy going stop and then you time freezing a guy. Like, it's cool.
100%.
It looks really cool. It could be so useful again, like for that, or if you need to get out of the way, or like someone's surrounded. It's just it's super, like, so much utility there. I really like it.
It is not a concentration spell.
Yes, well, it only lasts 1 round, isn't it?
Sure, but like
you can still lose end of your next turn. So you
could lose concentration in 1 round though, which is I think a thing. So in a way, it's like it is comparable to something like Hold Person. It's not as strong as Hold Person, obviously, because Hold Person is very good, and you don't want to just give people that. But as you say, getting crits on something.
You're also guaranteed another action as well, because it's the end of your next turn.
Yep.
It feels like a spell, so it's not going to be like super weird, because a wizard gets a lot. Wizard has to manage a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It might seem complicated at first, but then you kind of realize it's okay. It's just something's incapacitated. And it stops when it takes damage. It uses your save DC as usual. It's just another spell.
It's almost a first level spell.
Have. Yeah. So that's really cool. That'll be useful in pretty much any encounter.
Yep, large or smaller.
Yeah, being able to hit a large thing. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be good on. I guess a con save is maybe a little odd, but it's got to be something.
It's not spending any of your resources except its own, so it's.
Yeah, exactly. There's no reason you wouldn't use it.
It's free real estate.
It's free. It's exactly.
Love that.
And again, when you finish a long rest, you get it back. Is there anything like wizards do get on a short rest?
Yes, they get Arcane Recovery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where they can regrow some spell slots.
Cool. 10th level thing. Arcane Abeyance? Is that?
Yeah, I think it's Abeyance.
You basically put a spell into a tic tac and then someone else can use it.
I love this ability.
It's really cool.
This is actually what I've got. What he's going to be doing in this image when it's finished. He's got his fingers up, pinching a marble. Basically, when you can cast a 4th level spell. So I don't know why. I guess it's if you have a 4th level spell slot is what that means. If you got one left, you can you can put a spell into like a little. You can pause a spell as you cast it, and then give it to a guy, and then he can cast it within. Is there an amount of time?
An hour.
So yeah, it has 1 HP and it has an AC of 15. It's immune to psychic damage. All the kind of like. This one's a little wordy for that stuff, just because it has to be.
Needs specifics in case
it needs specific rules. Just in case
or attacked or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like how is it Ion Stones, something like that? Have like
that's
AC
exactly it. It's very similar to one of those.
Is it only? I assume it's 4th or lower level.
4th or lower, imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if it gets destroyed, the spell that you've stuck in it is lost.
It fizzles. It's gone.
Yeah, that's sad. So when something's holding it, they can use the action to cast the spell that you cast, and they use your spell attack like bonus, and it uses your save DC on the target, or whatever. So this is obviously incredible. It's so good. 4th level spells. There's a lot of there's a lot of them. All of them are very good. My first thought was just, if you're setting up an ambush, as it were, you could have 2 4th level fireballs simultaneously on a group, which would be bananas.
Yeah, very good. You can also give the fighter a casting of haste for himself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's a fair point. I wonder, how does concentration work for it?
I assume you would begin concentrating.
The spell treats the creature who released it as the caster for all other purposes.
He would have it then.
Okay.
So yes, so again, this is a way to have 2 concentration
spells.
And then you say a fighter's going to have better con probably.
Higher AC.
So
with the haste as well.
That's really good. It's obviously very cool. You can imagine you going through all the motions of casting a spell as normal, and then suddenly you clap your hands over it and squeeze it down, and it's pause.
Press it right in.
I like fireball beads, so it's very similar to that.
Yeah, very very similar to that. Yeah.
I think it also opens up a lot of avenues. If there's not a lot of spellcasters in the party, it doesn't matter. The wizard spell list is the best anyway.
Yeah.
But you could have 2 complementing spells. You could try to sort out some kind of cool combos. I'm sure people could set up some pretty wild stuff. I think with this.
Sam, what were the spells that you did in the Christmas? It was the water wall and the. It was the water wall
one, and then
snowstorm and wall of ice.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, because that has a line where it freezes things.
So I basically had a spell which made it can make a wall of water, but I made it as a cube round enemy, and then as a sorcerer I spell started to hasten and then do another spell, and it froze all the water on contact, encasing someone in a 15 AC wall of ice or something. Cool. It was a very cool moment, and you can set those up a bit easier.
Yeah, 100%.
There's so many opportunities there.
One guy can enlarge, another guy can reduce.
Yeah. So you walk up to someone, that'd be so funny, yeah. You try to intimidate someone and they shrink and then the other guy grows. It's 4 times his size.
It's kind of hard to think about because there's so many possibilities with it.
Yeah.
It's so useful. Obviously, going to be more useful in combat, probably, like because outside of combat, it doesn't
Time
matter
constraints
so
aren't
much.
as bad.
Exactly.
a thing.
Yeah. But
the rogue is going to go investigate. I give you an invisibility.
Or the rogues sneaking in and you
dimension door.
Yeah, wizard can sneak in obviously with like invisibility, but then when they're in, they have the low health usually and low AC and all this and all that. So a rogue sneaking in and then doing like Cone of Cold's too high level, I think. But again, a 4th level fireball or something.
Or just having that as their escape mechanism in case they get caught.
Dimension door, as you say. Yeah. And an hour is very generous as well.
It makes the ability good. If it was like 10 minutes, it makes it useless. You'd waste so many spells that don't get used.
Yeah.
And again, like, compare this to the Cleric at 10th, where they get the chance that their god divinely intervenes in the world for them. So I think this is pretty fair.
Yeah, an hour basically means you can do it before, like, a dungeon or whatever, because you're going to be spending, like, an hour in game in there, probably. So they haven't got to use it straight away, and it won't fizzle.
The only thing I would like to say is that there should be a line that if the bead isn't used, you can reabsorb it as an action.
That'd be good, yeah, just because losing a 4th level spell slot.
Because the fighter didn't use it.
Yeah. I guess you got to trust your teammates.
Well, the fighter's always been busy, he's always got to be running around protecting people or something.
They got their own stuff to be
and
good.
he's the one holding it, and then you'll feel like,
It's kind of like how, like, if a bard, like, if their bardic
inspirations they never get used.
It's like, can I get those back, please? I only get, like, 5 of them.
Yeah, put it on the wizard who's just doing DC attacks on everyone. So.
yeah. Because there's one... Anyway, really, really cool ability. Let me just quickly reread the 14th level thing, Convergent Future, because I remember it was cool, but I can't remember what it was.
It is pretty cool. It links into what you were saying earlier about how there's like a progression in your ability.
That's right.
This wizard.
So, this one, a while ago, we did the Clockwork Soul. That's right, for the sorcerer, and it was like interesting, but also there was a few things like, why doesn't it get the... Basically what I'm saying is this ability would have been really cool on that class as well, and I feel like it has a similar thing. The Clockwork Soul had this thing where like you could treat things as tens because it was like all about balance and averages, right? So this one basically is when you see a creature within 60 feet, and when they make a 20-sided die roll, ability check, score, attack, whatever, that sort of stuff, you can use your reaction to ignore the roll, and you decide whether basically it's a pass or a fail. Basically that, yeah. So the wording is like, you treat it as if it had just passed or like just failed by one number.
Which is awesome. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Because it's basically a thumbs up, thumbs down. Did that work or did it not work? And when you couple it with what comes next, it's amazingly flavorful. Like one of the most flavorful things ever.
When Sam was rereading this, he was like shocked that they used this mechanic because it never comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
D&D's long lost mechanic.
The fact that this is tied to exhaustion. You gain a level of exhaustion whenever you do this. It doesn't say that you max min levels of exhaustion or anything. Your character, if a fight is going poorly and you need stuff to be going your party's way, you can just be exhaust.
Yeah, 100%.
Just burning your character up, changing time to make the fight go your guy's way.
I just had a thought, actually, like, because Critical Role is a dramatic story thing, and this is the most, like, this is a mechanic where you can just outright kill your character to win.
Yeah.
So, like, this is the most dramatic storytelling-y thing in any class, I think. With Critical Role, they're trying to get to a story conclusion, a satisfying story conclusion, and dying heroically to win can be that. And like in D&D, like I do primarily think of it as a game, not as a storytelling thing. It is both, obviously, but it is frustrating to sacrifice a lot in character, and then because it is a game based on random chance, it still goes wrong.
Yeah.
So this can be a very cool, and again, 14th level is really high.
It's perfectly placed.
there's going to be like high stakes stuff. Hopefully at 14.
Yeah,
level, so
hopefully you're not
gonna feel
womping
like
rats at level 14.
Yeah, you're not going to be like, oh man, we got to kill this super ogre, and I'm gonna give everything. I'm gonna die to kill it, and then just go. I don't know why I did that.
I'm going to weave the fates around this bandit captain.
Yeah. So, and again, exhaustion is bad because you can't lose more than one level of exhaustion per rest. So if you do it 5 times, which I think is the most you could do without dying, then you're going to have to rest for like 5 days, which can be, depending on how your campaign works, that can be a long time.
Your movement speed is 0.
Yeah, you're just lying on the ground. It's very cool. Really, really cool ability, and it's comparable to the Evocation Wizard thing, who has that thing where they can like supercharge spells at the expense to damaging themselves.
But overall, I love this guy. I love the art you did for him. The skin colour's great.
I will take this time to point out a sad thing, which is of course that the artist for Asterix died a couple of days ago. Yeah. And when I was doing this, I kind of realised it's not Asterix in style, but like there's something about the face and the beard that was like very Getafix to me. So and the stick, yeah. So that was a. So this is the guy I drew. I think he's definitely an orc in the way I draw orcs, and he's got a spell. Again, I spent a long time trying to think like what could it be? What could I do to him? I was like, I'll just draw something that like makes sense story wise. If not a man with a big clock on his chest.
I like it. I do like it. Short of having his spells on a stone tablet. That's like...
Yeah, or like a because if I was thinking like, could you have like a what? Because I in the past have thought like having spell books that are like mixtapes.
Yeah.
Like in like more like when that can work better. So I was thinking like maybe you could have like a watch that like depending on the configuration, because like it does say that the spell book is basically just. It can be a code that only means something to you, or it should be a code that only means something to the wizard who owns it. And especially like with this one of the recent Unearthed Arcanas, they've been really clever and unique with the like arcane focuses for a lot of classes. So I think that's something that if this was an Unearthed Arcana, I think they would have had that for this class. But because it's a book, it's more traditional. But I think this is probably one of the like tightest subclasses that has come out since the original, and it's better than a lot of the Facebook stuff as well. It's really, really cool.
Matt Mercer knocked out the park.
He's just too good at everything.
He's not good at making challenge raiders. The much better CR show.
Got him.
All you craters out there.
All you craters out there. It's been a while since I heard that.
But yeah, no, I think as just final point about the concept of a time wizard, Yug, is I think if you're not like overly familiar with like fantasy tropes of like schools of magic and that sort of thing, I think a time wizard is like a very like traditional like obvious thing that isn't really in D&D at all. Not that I'm aware of, at least.
Yeah.
Again, it's good as well because it doesn't really actually require to be used like in the official like Wildemount setting, because apart from the description of it and some of the flavor text, you could use this in any setting without any issue. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't even like with the Echo Knight you could as well, but you would be really unique if you were an Echo Knight in any other setting. You would be very strange. Like you're a guy who could fight, but also you could like summon different alternate timelines of yourself. If you're a time wizard in like a fantasy setting, no one's gonna be like, hang on, bro, because it's magic. So
you change the fabric of reality in a different way to how you'd normally be changing the fabric of reality.
I'm a wizard, dude. That's what I do.
Definitely a explorer's guide than an explorer's guide.
It's a good, nice one, guys.
It's good. Yeah, well done.
I haven't actually read
Thanks.
Oh, is that you, Matt? Were you in the call all along?
Yeah.
I have not got a Matt Mercer impression. Everybody, remain indoors, stay safe. Hope everyone's doing alright. Play D&D online if you can. If not, just watch these videos.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thanks very much. Good night.